And let's welcome in Pete Prisco and Charles Davis joining us to break down the NFL playoff picture. Starting off with the NFC, the defending Super Bowl champs, the Rams, they were eliminated from playoff contention after losing to the Packers on Monday Night Football. No first-round pick in this upcoming draft. So, Pete, where do the Rams go from here?
Well, where they go is what they've done to supplement this roster to begin with. I mean, when you get top-heavy and pay a lot of money to high-end stars on your roster, you're going to have to fill in with some late-round draft picks and do it well. And Les Snead's done a nice job with that. The problem is the stars aren't around anymore. Aaron Donald's not playing, Matt Stafford's out, Cooper Kupp's out. And when you lose your stars and you're relegated to using guys you drafted in the 4th, 5th, and 6th, 7th round, then you're going to have problems. You can supplement stars with those guys, but you can't make them the lead guys. So that's the problem right now for the Rams. It's going to be a challenge for them. They have cap issues, and Les Snead's going to really have to draft well in those later rounds because they don't have a lot of first-round picks and premium picks in the coming drafts.
And Pete, as you pointed out, they've done a nice job of doing that along the way. And you're right, when they were supplementing the stars, that's a whole different ball game. But you mentioned the people who aren't there. Jalen Ramsey is still there, and they gave up a lot to get him. He's not having a normal Jalen Ramsey year. I don't expect that to continue. I would expect him to bounce back. But, there was conversation about that last year as things ended. And he had a tougher Super Bowl against the Bengals. So you expect those guys to be your guys. The question is, how long will you have Stafford, right? How can you build around him and continue to do that? Will some of these free agents that are out there be able to come in at mid-level contracts, not the high-end ones, who can flat-out play? And this is what we're seeing. To me, this is a crop repeat of what we thought could happen at the start of the season. And that was, if anything happens with the injury bug, this is going to be trouble for the Rams because they were already going in with, these are the guys. If you go below that, I was watching them last night, and this is not a shot at anyone, but Oday Aboushi was starting on the offensive line for him, Pete. Oday Aboushi has been a lot of different places and has never settled in as a premium starter. So when you're doing that and that's what's happening, that's where your issue is. I think Les Snead and crew will, to me, Sean McVay's done a great job in keeping it all together, even though they haven't won games. I think they'll bounce back. And the last thing, a quieter offseason would benefit this team. No questions about McVay about whether he'll coach or be in the broadcast booth. No questions about Aaron Donald, whether he's going to retire or not. No questions about Matthew Stafford and his health, and right on down the line. If they can get that, that'll help them bounce back as well.
One quick thing. You sold your soul for a Super Bowl. You got it. It's all worth it. And I'm doing this segment with a football to honor Charles Davis because every Sunday, Charles, we see you with the football in the booth, and we all wonder why. Why does he have the football? So I'm going to do this whole segment to honor you with a football.
I love that, Pete, and we'll answer that question down the road.
I'm used to seeing Pete with a shovel. I'm not used to seeing him with the football, so a nice change of pace there. Okay, so the Rams officially out of the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Eagles have already clinched a playoff spot, leading the NFC East. We know Jalen Hurts dealing with that shoulder injury, but we just heard Sirianni. He's yet to be officially ruled out. So, if Hurts doesn't play, if we kind of play that scenario, that hypothetical there, how much of an impact does that have on the Eagles' playoff run if it is Gardner Minshew that's under center for that Christmas Eve matchup against the Cowboys? Pete, we'll start with you.
Well, I think basically they pretty much have clinched the division. When you look at it, this is their division. They're probably going to end up with the 1 seed. So if he's just even a fraction injured, don't play him. Don't play him. Get him ready for the postseason. Remember, what they do on offense is predicated on his ability to get outside and run. And when he can run, they can run. When they can run, he can pass. And so you don't want him dinged up at all for the postseason. So if there's any doubt, and it sounds like me, Sirianni's playing games right now. And you know how coaches are. Oh, he might be able to go. They'd be crazy to play him because you don't need to play him. I would play Minshew. It's a big difference. Obviously, Minshew doesn't present the run threat that Hurts does, and so you're going to have to defend him a little differently. But this game is not that important in terms of the playoff picture for the Eagles. It's not really that important for the Cowboys either. They're probably going to end up with the 5 seed, which means they're probably going to go play the winner of the NFC South, which isn't exactly a bad thing, by the way.
Yeah, and look, when you talk about having this occur, I am all in with you, Pete, on if there's a scintilla that he is still dinged, he doesn't play. You have all this time between now and the playoffs to get him right. You're going to have probably the open week, so that gives you an extra week. You really don't want to use all of it because you don't want his first game to be after 5 weeks or so. But if you have to, it's there for you. And with the Eagles having Gardner Minshew, I think that's huge. We just saw the graphic that highlighted his one-loss record. One-loss records for quarterbacks in the NFL aren't like pitchers in baseball. It's not quite the same equation, but we all use it as kind of context. Remember, a lot of his one-loss records with a bad Jacksonville Jaguars team. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But look at his touchdown-to-interception ratio, 37-10. He's also the type of player that the team likes to play for without feeling like they're violating loyalty with their starter, because Gardner Minshew understands where his spot is, and he's not going to rock the boat in the clubhouse. He's not trying to take the starter's job. He just wants his team to win if he's out there and play to the best of his abilities, and he typically does that. And last but not least, Jacqueline and Pete, if you open up Webster's dictionary and turn to the term moxie, Gardner Minshew pops out and goes, "Hey, what's up?" That's who he is. And that's how this ball club rolls. I have zero worries about him taking over in the short term. I just think for the Eagles, the last thing you want is Jalen Hurts' first game after this injury to be the first game of the playoffs, and he might have a little bit of rust.
All right, so the Lions, their playoff chances, they're still alive. They were 1-6 in their first 7 games of the season. Now they're 7-7. So are we looking at a playoff team, Charles?
I think there's a great possibility of them being a playoff team the way they're playing. The one thing I will say about them is this past Sunday, and Pete, I'm eager to hear what you thought. I thought for the first time I saw a team realizing what's actually at stake when they played. Because they, 1-6 start, you're out of it, no one cares. Now you go on your streak, and none of us really lock in on it until like, oh, hold it a second, they've won 5 of 6? Now we're starting to get there. Then this Jets game comes along. And if this was pro wrestling, Sunday felt like a loser leave town match. Whoever loses, your playoff opportunity is taking a major hit. And both teams kind of approached it that way. And I thought for once I saw the Lions play tight in that one. Not the loose team we saw jump on Minnesota, right? We saw a team saying, hold a second, there's something at stake here. They can get rid of that and get back to being loose. They are more than dangerous, Pete. When I get ready for Detroit and realized they had scored 30 points or more 7 times and 25 or more 5 straight times, first time since 1954, I had to go back and look at my notes again because I thought I was looking at Kansas City. This is a very dangerous team on offense and a team that's scrappy on defense. They are a threat to make the playoffs, in my opinion.
Well, I think they're a definite threat to make the playoffs, and they play another mini playoff game this week at Carolina. I mean, the loser is probably in big trouble, and the winner moves on. And so back-to-back road games, that's going to challenge you outside the division. That's always a tough challenge for a young team. But I want to give credit to Jared Goff. I know people over the years have just beat him up. The Rams threw him away. They threw him to the curb and got Matt Stafford, won a Super Bowl, and everybody said, oh, Jared Goff can't play. They got rid of him. Well, Jared Goff is having a heck of a season for the Detroit Lions. And I love the play call on 4th and inches. Let's leak the tight end out. Let's sneak him out and throw it for a touchdown. Go win the game. We don't need a first down. We want to go win the game. And I think Jared Goff has taken on that mentality. And I think when you see him, you can tell he's being coached well by Mark Brunell. He's also being coached well by Ben Johnson. They've done a nice job with him. And I think the Lions have a decision on their hands. If they make a playoff push, what do you do with Jared Goff in the future? I think Jared Goff has played himself into the starting job.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Real quick, Jacqueline, that play call that Pete talked about, really well designed and executed, because it was supposed to go to Amon-Ra St. Brown. But they knew that, hey, if they jump him out in the flat, here's our backside read. And that was the tight end who had just dropped the pass 3 plays previously. Now he makes the biggest play of the game. So I'm absolutely all there with everything that you said on that, Pete. This is a Lions team that is dangerous. And I love the way that you came to praise Jared Goff, not to bury him with your shovel. That's very nice for Jared.
All right, guys, we are running out of time, but really quickly, who are your 2 wild card teams? Pete, we'll start with you.
You know, I still think that's to be determined. And it could come down, this is crazy as it sounds, it could come down to Packers and Lions in the final week of the season, which would be crazy. But I would probably lean to the Giants being one of them for sure. And you know, those are the three wild cards, Cowboys, Giants, and then the Packers or the Lions. That's who I think it's going to be, because Seattle's going to get whacked this week at Kansas City. I think that hurts them. So I think it comes down to the Lions and Packers in the final week of the season.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Pete on that one. The Seahawks, that's been a tough one. They've been leaking a little bit of oil lately, and no one's coming out of the NFC South. Whoever wins the division goes. You can take all the other ones and kick them to the side. There's not going to be a second team out of that division.
All right, Pete Prisco, Charles Davis joining us here on CBS Sports HQ, breaking down the NFC playoff picture as we head into Week 16. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And just quickly recapping the NFC playoff picture, we have the division leaders, Eagles, Vikings, 49ers, and the Bucks, with the Eagles 13-1 clinching their playoff berth. And then you have the 49ers clinching the division. In the wild card spots, we got the Cowboys, Giants, and the Commanders, with the Cowboys also clinching their playoff berth. Pete and Charles both thinking that the Packers and the Lions are going to get those remaining wild card spots.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.